We are now joined by the co-chair of the Biden-Harris campaign, Senator Chris Coons. Senator, thank you for joining us.
Great to be on with you. This is a critical moment in American history. And I hope today that we can focus on Joe Biden's incredible legacy of service to our nation. 50 years. He has been serving us in the Senate as vice president, as president. And today he's made a very difficult decision in the best interest of our nation to continue serving as president, to continue rolling up his sleeves and tackling the challenges that still lie ahead of us in the next 6 months, but to step aside in terms of the nomination of my party for president in order to make certain that Donald Trump is not returned to the White House. I admire, I respect, I love Joe Biden. I have worked my heart out for him on this campaign. And while this was a very hard decision, I deeply respect how it is a continuation of his lifetime of putting our country before himself. Joe Biden is the toughest fighter I've ever met. Every time he's been knocked down, he's always got up again. And the challenge of seeing this moment and of recognizing what was in the best interest of the nation was a significant challenge. I still believe he could have beaten Donald Trump, but I also know that what he's done today is in the best interests of our nation.
And Senator, what now is happening with Vice President Harris? When will we hear next from her?
I don't know her schedule today or when she'll come on TV, but what matters is that President Biden has made an historic, a brave and important decision that we should reflect on his legacy and his leadership, which is the legacy of the Biden-Harris administration. As you know, I'm a member of the Judiciary Committee. We've confirmed more than 200 federal judges under the Biden-Harris administration. Vice President Harris, who served with me in the Senate on the Judiciary Committee, was a critical part of getting every one of those judges confirmed. She's been a key part of the successes at home and abroad of the Biden-Harris legacy, and I think she is best positioned to carry it forward. Joe Biden, our president, spoke to that just moments ago in endorsing her. I do hope that we'll take some time today and reflect on the fact that Joe Biden is someone who in the Senate, as vice president, as president, has earned a legacy among the most important, impactful, effective presidents in our entire nation's history. And there's lots more to do. Just this coming week, he will continue to work to negotiate a ceasefire in Gaza, a hostage release and return, a path forward for the resolution of the conflict between Israelis and Palestinians in Gaza. He is someone who spent 50 years being prepared to lead our nation in this moment, in Ukraine and with our NATO allies, in the Indo-Pacific, in the Middle East. And he's got 6 more months of service to complete as our president and as the most respected, most senior leader of our party.
Senator,
I look forward to campaigning hard alongside him this fall and to working with him in the Senate.
Senator, at this hour, we know that President Biden has endorsed his vice president to be the Democratic nominee. We have also heard from the Clintons in a joint statement saying they would like Kamala Harris to be the Democratic nominee. Do you expect there to be any challenge to the vice president?
Well, today I think we should focus on the legacy of Joe Biden as president. I do recognize the urgency of the moment. As we head towards our convention in Chicago in August, I think the most important thing we can do is come together. And Vice President Harris has an incredible legacy of success and accomplishment as a senator and vice president. I do not expect a serious challenge to her nomination, but let's let that work itself out in the coming weeks and focus today on what a big contribution to our nation our president has made. He's been my mentor. He's been my friend. I am proud of him as a Delawarean, a Democrat, and an American. And I hope the folks who have been raising lots of questions and issues in the last few weeks will do what they said they would do and recognize his leadership, his legacy, and come together to support the nominee of the Democratic Party so that we come out of Chicago united. Donald Trump is a unique threat to the future of our nation, and his choice of a running mate is someone who I've served with in the Senate and who I think, in terms of our continuing to stand strong behind Ukraine in their fight for freedom, to continue to advocate for the rights and liberties of Americans, shows everything we need to know. We should be focusing on the fall campaign and the threat that Donald Trump presents to the real legacy of accomplishment, fighting for the middle class, reducing prescription drug prices, combating climate change, helping veterans. Our president and vice president have gotten incredible things done. They've gotten them done through bipartisanship, too. They've reached across the aisle. They've crafted incredible legislation that's made a difference in everything from gun safety to combating climate change to investing in manufacturing to rebuilding this country. So for everyone who's watching, anxious, concerned about the future of our country, know that Joe Biden is a patriot who loves our nation, and know that we are positioned to carry that legacy forward this fall.
Senator Coons, it's Bob Costa. Good to see you, sir. If you could, for a moment, good to see you, respectfully put aside your role as a United States Senator and talk about Joe Biden, the President of the United States. You, more than anyone perhaps I've ever covered, understand his home in Rehoboth Beach, Delaware. This is a retreat he goes to. The final days of this decision was not like Nixon in '74 at the residence of the White House. He went to Rehoboth Beach, your home state, to be with Jill, to talk with family members. Tell us about the importance of the site of this momentous decision in American political history, him watching the waves at Rehoboth Beach down the street from the boardwalk and the ice cream stands, a place that he has gone to again and again, decade after personal highs, political humiliation. He always goes back to Rehoboth, back to Delaware, back to the family. And I know this was a heart-wrenching decision for him based on our reporting, but you're one of his closest friends in American politics. Give us a candid assessment of what this has really been like for him.
Bob, as you say, Joe Biden is grounded. He's grounded in his faith, in his family, and in our state. Excuse me. I'm sorry. This was a very difficult decision, and one that I think reflects the very best of who Joe Biden is. Someone who, as you put it, Bob, comes home because it's where his strength is. His strength is in his family. His strength is in our community. His strength is in his faith. And as he was going through the excruciating loss of his beloved son, Beau, it was in Rehoboth, in Wilmington, in prayer, and surrounded by all who have loved and supported him for decades in Delaware, that he found strength. As he was finding his way through the tragic loss of his wife and daughter back in 1972 that began his career in the Senate, it was in Delaware, and it was in his faith that he found the grounding and the strength to be able to get back up and continue. And in every chapter in his life, in politics, in service, in his family, and at home, he's been grounded. Joe Biden, more than anyone I've ever known, speaks to what is best in the American spirit, a capacity to keep going, to see challenges, but to find hope and to find strength. The folks in Delaware who've been texting me and calling me in the last few hours all want me to say to Joe Biden how much we love him, how much we admire and respect his service, and how grateful we all are for the decisions he's made over decades in his service and his tireless loyalty to our home state of Delaware. He is the greatest Delawarean in our history. And the fact that he has chosen to be grounded in our community, in our parish, in our parishes, in the traditions and history of bipartisanship and of respecting each other and of being compassionate and decent, all of that comes from our community, his family, his faith, and our traditions. And so thank you for asking. He did make the hardest decision, I suspect, of his whole life in a way that was informed by and grounded by everything that has sustained him in his decades of public service.
Senator Coons, it's Margaret Brennan, and I appreciate your emotion talking about your friend and doing so in a way that really speaks to his legacy. I'm wondering, as you talk about how painful this decision was, this was a painful and drawn out 3 weeks where it was death by 1,000 cuts. And he was being urged publicly to make the decision he ultimately came to. I wonder if you have any insight into what ultimately shifted for him. Was it hearing that he had, had lost the faith of some of the Democratic leadership? Was it numbers in Congress and losing races? Or was it ultimately something within him that said, this is not my moment? Do you have any insight into what changed overnight?
Look, Margaret, I shouldn't get into details where I'd be speaking for our president. But I will say this. He is someone who has always fought hard. He is tough. He is a fighter. He has survived blows that would have leveled any lesser man. And so in the last few weeks, he has struggled with that instinct, that toughness, that determination to keep fighting and to keep showing what America is all about. If you read his letter that he put out today, he said he's more optimistic today than he's ever been about our nation, that together, if we unite, there's nothing we cannot do. And I think there was a tough balance there. He listened, he heard input from average folks, from folks who've loved and supported him from decades, from folks, of course, in the political spectrum all across our country. He dedicated a lot of time to listening to senators, to mayors, to House members, to governors, to advisors, to friends. But at the end of the day, I think what really mattered more than anything else was his confidence that this was the right thing for our nation. Joe Biden has always put our country first, and his ability to keep fighting these next 6 months to get things right on the world stage, to address the tragedy and the conflict in Gaza with Israel, to secure freedom for the people of Ukraine as they continue to fight Russian aggression, to put some finishing touches on critical work in the Indo-Pacific, and to do that while also leading a campaign effort for the Democratic nominee. I think that opportunity to keep fighting for the things that matter ultimately won out over he personally being the nominee of our party. This is a momentous, a difficult, and a heartfelt decision, and I deeply respect how he made it.
Senator Chris Coons, thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate it.
Thank you.